Good morning and welcome to the video for 6th grade for Tuesday, May the 5th. This is going to be working with outliers. So when we are working with statistics, we are going to want to make sure that all of our values for our data fit what we are trying to accomplish. So an outlier is going to be something that's going to be so much greater or so much less than everything else that it's going to throw off our results potentially. So we're going to talk about that using a couple different examples. So to start with, for our unlock the problem, if you want to go ahead and pause the video and take a look at the numbers, I went ahead and plotted everything out. I know we're probably supposed to use the little dots instead of X's, but I'm so used to using X's, I just use them anyway. And it's easier than trying to fiddle with making enough dots show up small enough that you can tell what they are. So pretty much our entire range here, we're looking more between 4 and 6 or 4 and 7, and then these are kind of on the outside edges, but we're going to say that most of the data values for this fall between 3 and 8. And then this one person having 16 absences is going to be so much different from the rest of the set that we are going to say that 16 is going to be an outlier. We are not going to try to want to include that if we want to find the average of how many days people missed. Because this one being so much greater, missed as many as everyone else. Basically, like our next closest person missed twice as many days. So that's going to throw off our results a little bit. So let's take a look at our example on the second page. So we have a list of temperatures. Again, we've went ahead and drawn that out. So if you want to go ahead and pause the video and get caught up, the next step that we want to do is, this is for the purpose of figuring out how using the outlier can affect our results. So we're going to find the mean without the outlier. And so that should give us a total of 261 over 6. And that should relate to being 43.5 degrees for our average. So 40 times 6 would give us 240. We can do 3 more to add 18, and then we would have 3 left over, and that would be where our 0.5 comes from. If we want to find the median, we are going to put everything in numerical order. I currently have an even number of data points, and so I would use, I don't know why oh, that's supposed to be a 3. It's a difficulty, right? I was wondering why I had an extra 5. That should be a 3. And so our middle point would fall somewhere in here, and so we are going to use both of these, divide by 2. That would give us 43. And so our mean with the outlier would be if we take our 261 and add 26 to it, that would give us 287 divided by 7. And so that would give us exactly 41 degrees. Without the outlier, we have 43.5 degrees. And so we have a 2.5 degree difference. So the outlier actually made the mean smaller in this case. And so it throws off our average by a pretty sizable amount compared to the range of the temperatures that we're working with. If we were going between 42 and 45, we're almost going farther below for our average than the range that we would have for our other values for the data. So the median with the outlier is going to be, if we put a 26 here and pretend we did that, then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Our fourth one, our middle one, would be the median. And so that is still going to be 43. So we are going to not have a difference in our median because we are not changing enough things if we are just calculating into the middle of what the set is going to be. Instead of finding the average, we're not going to have a drastic difference there. There's a chance that maybe we could adjust if we didn't have repeating numbers, that it could adjust it over slightly. But for this instance, we are not going to have that. So let's take a look at number 3 here real quick. Actually, let's do this. So I think I've already mentioned this. Number 2, the mean without the outlier is a better description because it is more closer to the actual average. So again, here was our actual average if we took away that extra day that's so different than the others. This gives us a more accurate representation, and it's closer to our mean, which means, it's closer to our median, which means it's probably more accurate measurement. So if the outlier had been 59 degrees instead of 26, how would the mean have been affected by the outlier? Well, it would have become greater, and it would have become greater, let's see, so we went by 16 here from our lowest point. From our highest point, we would be going up 14, so it wouldn't adjust it quite as far as the average is concerned, but it would change the mean and it would increase the overall average temperature. So number 1 for share and show, I'm going to skip doing the drawing for this part just to save time, but I will let you do that. Again, we're putting dots, 1 each for each of the ones, so there would be 4 of those. There would be 4 2s, 4 3s, and then we have 1 5. And so our 1 5 would end up being the outlier for that. For number 2, they don't even ask you to draw a picture, so I'm just going to help you find the outlier real quick. Pause the video if you want to find that on your own. And so our outlier, if we are looking at the price ranges, this $68 is so much lower than everything else. Like, we do have a little bit of a range here of about $15 from 90 up to 105, but 68 is so much farther below. And then I'll leave you if you want to try that one on your own to do that. So let's look at number 3 now. Identify the outliers. So we are looking for something that's drastically different. Hopefully, as you've just scanned the numbers, you find out that one of these things is so much not like the others that it really sticks out, and that should hopefully be that one. So that is a very small, whatever type of melon that they are working with, less than a pound, compared to all of the other ones, which are at least 2 or 3 pounds in size. So let's go ahead and look at our homework problems real quick. So again, Risen Christ students, I'm asking you to do number 2, number 4, number 1, and number 2 on the back. I will cover all of the problems in the homework video. So we want to, for number 2, identify the outlier. So it's the one that's going to be drastically different than all the others. And then explain how that's going to affect the mean and the median. So for the mean, what you would need to do is probably find that without the outlier first, and then find it with the outlier second, or you can just use reason. So for instance, if we look at this, there's one number that is so much different, and you can tell whether it's greater or less than, which means it's going to adjust our mean in that direction. So if it's greater than, our mean is going to be larger than it should be. If it's less than the rest of the numbers, it would be smaller than it should be. And then we would say if that adjusts the median or not. I have 8 data points here. So if I don't include our outlier, then we would end up with one different thing. And then if we include that, we would have 8 data points. So we would find our 2 center ones and divide by 2. So it may not change anything for that, but it could, depending on what the numbers were. Number 4, all they want us to do is describe the effect. So they're not asking you to find and write down the outlier. They just want you to recognize what the outlier is and describe how. So we're basically giving the second part of this problem as the only thing we're asking for here. And then number 1 and number 2, they just want the outlier for number 1 and then how that would affect. So again, if the outlier is larger, that's going to possibly change the median by making the answer smaller. Wait, hold on, let me make sure I've got that right. Actually, write this down real quick. So we've got 15, we've got 41, 42, 52, 55, 60, and 64. Sorry, yeah, so if it was larger, it would actually move us over potentially into, if we added another one here, we would be in this range. With our outlier, if we being this, if we took that out, then we are looking at still kind of in the middle for that. So we may not actually have a effect on the median for that one. So keep that in mind as you're looking. Again, we're not always going to have a change just because we have an outlier. Sometimes we can say that the average part will be different, but the median may not change because of the numbers that we're given. So, especially if we have repeated numbers that end up being in the middle of our set of values for our data. So hope that helps. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in Google Classroom. For anyone that's watching this that isn't one of my students, I apologize. I don't have a way to have comments with the rating for the video. Please reach out to your classroom teacher if you have any questions after watching this video and or the homework video. So hope you have a great day. The homework video will be coming out on Wednesday, so I will see you tomorrow.